I don't see lawyers ever being replaced by technology. I think that's sort of like a false tension that I think people have put out there, either because they're trying to promote a product or just don't understand how legal consumers work. You have things like LegalZoom, you have all kinds of different DIY services, but what we've found is people who come to us, they're coming to us because they want a human connection. They want a human being to say, okay, look, I've done this hundreds of times and I can tell you what works and what doesn't work. I can tell you what kind of things lead to a conflict 6 months from now that I'm seeing happening in your business, right? So they're looking for context and perspective and not just a form that will fill out a document for them.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by ConsultWebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that giggles when you poke it in the tummy. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community on the latest in legal marketing and law firm development. I am your host, Jake Sanders, and he is your host, Paul Julius. Paul, if you had to choose between the Pillsbury Doughboy and the Hamburger Helper in a fight, who would win?
That's a tough one. Hamburger Helper, I mean, it's just a hand.
It's just a hand.
Seems like there's some disadvantages there, but the problem is I think the Pillsbury Doughboy, I don't know how much fight Doughboy has in him, you know?
He doesn't seem aggressive at all.
No. I guess I mean, I don't know. I guess it would kind of depend on like are they in the octagon or like are you throwing?
Oh, I think it's on a kitchen counter
pit where we can throw in like some bats and
and money,
gardening tools and see what happens. Yeah, money.
You got 4 limbs on the Pillsbury. Get him mad enough, motivate him, show him like, people using croissants for like, weird things as like scrubbing pads to clean like, something. Get him mad. Get the Hamburger Helper spiced up. Whatever the spiciest dishes, Mexican hamburger, explosion. I would say get them spiced up and then get him in there. Get him full of rage.
An enraged Pillsbury Doughboy.
I think he would do it. My money's on the Doughboy because there's a lot of, you don't know what he's holding back. This is your oven. We're just rising in it, Paul.
I'm going to say this.
Okay.
If it comes down to what they actually could prepare, I'm going with the Doughboy. Because those cinnamon muffins are delicious. And
versus a helper, a tuna helper.
I had a bad experience with Hamburger Helper, so.
Turkey helper.
Yeah.
Ostrich helper. Horse helper.
Buffalo, bison helper.
Quail helper.
Depends on where you live, I guess. Yeah,
all right, talking about learned hands, talking about the law, talking about the Supreme Court, talking about things that matter to our audience. Tell them what's on the show today.
All right. On the show today, we're talking about flat fees, subscription services, and the hourly rate. First, with an article from Attorney at Work, and then we talked to Jonathan Tobin, counsel for creators, about his reasons for different billing options, technology in the law firm, customer service, and more. And of course, we don't let our guests escape without tackling the tough stuff, known as 5 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The Hot Take Buffet is from attorneyatwork.com. It's by Ruth Carter, her subsection that she does there, Nothing But the Ruth. It's entitled The Pros and Cons of Billing Options. And she's a lawyer who's tried all these different approaches to pricing and billing, and she gives the dish. It's actually really helpful. I mean, lawyers who are listening here are like, it's too late. Or maybe they're thinking a pivot is, in the future. Talking to John later, it's surprisingly simple in his mind about how to approach legal services, subscription-based stuff, flat fee stuff, and also, things that require, more in-depth work. It's all there. I think Ruth's interesting article here may seem bare bones, but she talks about pros and cons of both, which I thought was great. I thought it was interesting that when she was dealing with flat fees, the complicated things like settlements weren't working because the work order or the scope can kind of get out from under your feet. And then hourly, the cons for that was client uncertainty about how much they're going to be end up paying, and then chasing down the clients for payment when you're doing the hourly billing. That's something that also is present in the lawyer's mind. And then there's low incentives for innovation. Here's what Greg Garman from Law Clerk had to say about the hourly billing and why it's hard to change that.
I've been doing this 20 plus years since the first CLE I ever went to when I was a young lawyer. People keep repeating the mantra that the billable hour is dead. And well, it's not. It's not, because we have tons of business models to replace the billable hour, but none of them are as profitable as the billable hour. And that's why it doesn't go away yet.
So the truth is, it's very lucrative. Hourly billing is way lucrative. And so my hot take is, if you're getting paid, you don't change. I wish it were more simple, and I wish we all were trying to be the change we want to see in the world, but it's really frustrating to wonder why people won't or why people don't. My thought is, the hot take here is the billing model is essential to the way you approach life because it incentivizes your behaviors. So considering all of this, stick around to hear, John, because I think he has the best take on this because he's a lawyer that's approached it and has freed his mind from the constrictions of the hourly billing.
So I like where you're going with it, but I would twist it a little bit and say that it's aligned with the business. And I think it's flat fee versus hourly is something that, on the creative side or on the agency side, we struggle with a lot too. Because if you look at like hourly billing, if you're a freelancer or, maybe you're running a small company or something like that. If you do hourly billing, you're actually kind of penalizing yourself for efficiency. And so I think what I really like about what John says later is that he has different things that are covered under these different pricing umbrellas. And so my hot take here is that it's not flat fee or hourly. It should be flat fee and hourly. If you've done something and you have a process, a matter, it's only going to take X amount of time. You're pretty solid. It's pretty cut and dried. Those are the kind of things where I think there's an opportunity to be more profitable with a flat fee
and embrace the efficiency angle and not feel like you're cutting yourself out. Right.
I mean, if you do criminal defense and you're going to go to court one day and you're going to handle, 8 tickets or something, 5 DUIs or something, you can charge you could get better value doing a flat fee than if you were like, well, I was only, I actually only talked to the judge for 30 minutes about your case.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
wow. That's an interesting thought experience. What a great, it is just a slight nudge from the pricing billing model to the business model. It's not a dichotomy. That's what your take is. It's not this either or thing. And I think maybe that's what gets people preventing change from happening in their life because, I'm not this or that. I'm, nothing. So I just won't change. I'm not definitively for flat fee or definitively for billing or changing my hourly billing. So I'm just not going to do anything.
Well, and why not have I really like what she says. I mean, this is, like you said, it's a basic article, but I think this really lays it out pretty effectively. But the one thing she says about hourly rate is it's important to ask clients about their budget. What if early on in your intake or your initial consult or whatever, you had you got a feeling for what this client was looking for, and you kind of understood their budget. What if you had different options?
Mm-hmm.
I think that you have to kind of build yourself in some options,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe use a little intuition to sort of steer clients into what the best option for them would be. At least that's how, if I was going to implement it, that's what I would do.
Well, and what you're doing is listening, setting expectations before the train leaves the station. That's the key. Decide what you will. Make sure, if flat fee, hourly, flat fee and hourly, just like what you're saying, this flexible model. But make sure you get the information and listen up front and align the experience with the expectation. That's the key takeaway, maybe, and that's what John's talking about with Counsel for Creators. That's how he approaches his business, his, lawyering, his service, his marketing, his social media. It's just like a complete package. And it's great because juxtaposed with Ruth's article, you really get a sense for how legal services and the way it's delivered goes beyond just this pricing and billing, and it kind of expands into the way we sort of what is it, the way we encourage or discourage behaviors, efficiency or innovation, just like what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, that's what John talks about later too. Is he basically is saying, let's, listen, be client forward, be an advocate, give them what they need, and he's in and listen to what they need. And that's really how he developed all these things. It's not like he just decided one day, hey, we're doing this because me. Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the complete opposite when you hear him talk about it. He did it. This is something that's going to make sense for everyone and be a great solution for the people who are coming to my firm looking for help. I mean, what better can you do? That's great marketing right there.
Yep. And that's it. It's marketing, and it's listening to the marketplace and responding and behaving accordingly. So it's a treasure chest. It's full forest of bird song, replete with fanciful vitality. I think you're going to be amazed at this interview. The fertile fields we frolic through, fancifully and free. It's Paul, it's John, it's me, and it's you. And it's Lawsome.
Let's go.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
I met Tanner, who works for Consult Webs, on a plane on the way back from Key West, Florida. And I'd just been thinking that I needed to do some more marketing for my law firm. So when he told me that he worked for Consult Webs, I was super excited. From the beginning till even now, I've been with them for almost 2 years, and the experience has really been great. Having Consult Webs on board is really like having your own team of people that really care about what kind of business you're getting. I mean, practicing law can seem kind of lonely. You always are wondering, how am I going to get clients? How am I going to make payroll? But with Consult Webs, it's not just me worrying about having people come in the door. They're there as well, and they've been so responsive. Since I started with Consult Webs, I have increased the number of employees double at least. And since I started with Consult Webs, the revenue has tripled. So it's really been an incredible experience.
Go to consultwebs.com to learn more.
And now, for a Lawsome interview.
Jonathan Tobin is an author, technologist, and lawyer whose goal is to redesign the law firm experience from the ground up while helping his clients grow successful businesses. He's a force on Twitter, he's a force on the page, and now he brings his force in alignment with the Lawsome podcast. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
So let's talk about Counsel for Creators. What is this next generation law firm, and how are you differentiating in the legal services space?
Yeah. So the whole thing we're trying to do, like at the highest level, is really make law user friendly, change the experience of working with a lawyer, hiring a lawyer, and by doing this, we're trying to work with a whole new market, sort of that middle ground of people who maybe aren't looking for pro bono lawyers, but also aren't looking for a big law firm or a large law firm. They just need some legal help. They're business owners, they're creatives, and they need some legal help. So what we've done is we've just made that a lot easier. We've streamlined our processes, so it's really easy to work with us. Made things really clear. We do flat fees, and we also do a subscription, which a lot of people have joined because they just want to be able to work with a lawyer. They don't know what they need. They have questions, and so that's how we make ourselves available to people.
And so other folks aren't doing subscription. It's sort of just like sit down and we'll charge you for 0.6 hours or whatever it is. When it comes to this dichotomy in between subscription fees and running a business versus hourly billing, and how traditionally lawyers have been, kind of incentivized.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be its own show, but could you speak to the difference of these business models and then like the mind states that they have on lawyers and maybe even clients too? I mean, I'm sorry, that's a compound question, and I know you guys hate that stuff.
It's all good.
Roll with me.
I can sort of start. I can sort of start from the back and work my way in here, and you tell me if I'm getting off track here. But yeah, I mean, really, what this was about, the whole point of this is to sort of remove that friction that we were seeing in the legal world, where people wouldn't contact a lawyer because they were afraid of how much am I going to be billed? Is it going to be $60, for 10 minutes? Is it going to be $600? What's the bill going to look like? And so people wouldn't contact us. They wouldn't contact lawyers, anybody, because they were afraid of that interaction, right? Not knowing how much something's going to cost. I mean, who wants to do that? So we decided, okay, look, there's got to be a way that we can remove that barrier so people can know it's going to cost $95. Give us a call. We help you through the legal issue. And then, ideally, they get enough value from that and continue to get value so that they stay on our subscription. So for us, it's about that relationship and building the ongoing support, right? So it's not just about the one-off transaction, like, okay, cool, we had a conversation or did a project, but we're helping you over months. We're helping you over years even. We have some members who have been, members for 5 years, which is as long as we've been doing this. So it's really about that relationship and developing that relationship and making people not afraid to use our services.
And client side. So now speak to the lawyer side. If you're thinking, I'm going to run at this subscription thing, I get my money and that's it. Or I'm going to charge hourly. How does that change your approach towards lawyering?
Yeah. So first of all, I think it puts the relationship front and center. Because on the simplest level, we don't have to have that awkward conversation about bills every month. When someone either gets a bill that's too much, too little. I mean, no one would actually be mad about that. But point is, it's predictable. We don't have to think about it. So that kind of clears the air, so that people can talk to us, and we like it too, because we're not so worried about, okay, like here's how much we're billing off this person. It's just like, okay, this person's a member. Let's do what we can to help them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's weird. Almost sounds like you care more about serving than sort of exacting some cost from.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, I think any business that is successful, any business that I like, and I'd say anybody likes, their central thing is how do you serve the client? It's or a customer, and that's really what we've tried to build into our firm. And whether it's through subscription or anything else, it's just really, okay, how do we make this valuable for people?
That's really cool. I have a quick question about some of your services here, particularly, I guess when it comes to the subscription, and I haven't really fully gone through the whole thing here, but I really, really like how you have different options for people who have different needs. So you have like the artistic things, you have different trademark stuff, things like that. Do you ever, I don't want to say package things or stuff like that, but I mean, is there, if someone's putting out like a ton of music or a ton of art or something like that, do you ever kind of work with them and say, okay, we know you're going to be copywriting or, whatever, a load of stuff here. So
interesting.
Is that kind of what the flat fee thing was geared at? Because it seems to me like that could work out really well for everybody. You're going to have a certain amount of, baseline stuff coming in.
Yeah.
Artist knows that they don't have to worry too much about getting hit with some surprise thing. So Does it work like that, or is it always just get a subscription and we'll sort of piece together how it goes from there?
Yeah, so the subscription is one part of what we offer, and then the other services we offer, we do it on a flat fee. So,
Okay.
really, so let's say that someone's my client. If we're setting up a new business, that's a flat fee. If we're doing a trademark, that's a flat fee. And the subscription is really meant to sort of support that relationship, to support that whole thing. Because what we found early on, let's say someone comes to us for a trademark, it's not like the trademark is the only legal thing they have going on. It's not like their whole business is a trademark registration, right?
Right.
So, what we realize is also an opportunity. We're like, hey, okay, so you're registering this trademark. What kind of business entity do you have set up? Who are you hiring? Who are you working with? What kind of contracts are you receiving? Let's talk about that, and let's do that via subscription. So these things go together. Or, the opposite might be true, where someone comes in on the subscription, they're just starting their business, they have no idea what to do, and we're like, okay, cool. Here's what most business owners like you would do. They would register a trademark. They'd form an LLC. And, the whole thing isn't about getting someone to do it right away. Like you might, if you need that income, like if you need that flat fee, it's more like, hey, in the next year, do this at some point, kind of budget for that, think ahead, know that you're going to get benefit by thinking ahead and doing those things. And also make the person understand why. It's not just trying to sell something, but be like, hey, like this is what I would recommend. This is what I would do if I was in your position.
The tech side of it, though, we've seen some prototypes. I don't know that I'd call them outliers. I think, we've talked to Erin Levine and what she's doing with Hello Divorce. There's definitely a tech element to it. And even to go further, there are some chatbot based things. I know Patrick Pallas has done one with his workers' comp bot and stuff like that, where you can kind of
with Law Droid.
work, where you can sort of work into your own kind of deal. Do you think there's some kind of balance between tech and law where, there's still a level of human interaction, I guess?
What's the timeline on us being replaced?
That's where I was going.
Good question. Okay, so that question is that's a good question, and I actually hopefully have a decent answer for it, which is I don't see lawyers ever being replaced by technology. I think that's sort of like a false tension that I think people have put out there, either because they're trying to promote a product or just don't understand how legal consumers work. You have things like LegalZoom, you have all kinds of different DIY services. But what we've found is people who come to us, they're coming to us because they want a human connection. They want a human being to say, okay, look, I've done this hundreds of times and I can tell you what works and what doesn't work. I can tell you what kind of things lead to a conflict 6 months from now that I'm seeing happening in your business, right? So they're looking for context and perspective and not just a form that will fill out a document for them. And, if that's what someone wants, I just point them to it. I'm like, hey, here's a piece of technology. If that's all you want, just go ahead and use it,
Well, I love it. I love the false dichotomy, this tension, this sort of us versus them. It's great for clicks. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
It's just completely juicy. But it sets up weird narratives. And I think the loser here is our brains. For their lack of ability to build meaningful barriers and parameters and boundaries around what's going to really be affecting us and what might not. And I guess it would be sort of this shark attack versus falling down the stairs. You're wildly scared of sharks, but you're probably going to fall down the stairs. And
good point.
And so I think if they're not selling a product, speak a bit to lawyers and the sensibility that they might need to start developing when they're courting technological solutions to their service. I mean, because they're getting hit up like it's The Bachelor. Roses, hot sex on the beach. It looks great, but is it? You know what I mean? So talk to the lawyers and how what's your thought there on how they can look at tech with a little bit more clear vision?
Yeah. So what I'd say is this: is tech is not a solution to anything, right? And so what lawyers this is advice I give myself too, and it seems to have helped me, is start with what you're actually trying to do. What's the mission, right? What is it that you're best at? Like, where are you performing at your best and providing the most value? And then you look for technology that will support that, right? So it can be something as simple as, I want people to easily be able to contact me, right? So that's one of the things I want to do. So the technology I use, which a lot of people now use, is Acuity Scheduling. That lets people go on my calendar and pick a time. It's not a big deal, but what I'm trying to illustrate is that supports my goal, right? So instead of people having to call me and leave a voicemail, wondering when I'm going to call them back, me try to call them, not reach them, or whatever, we can just make it real easy. We're going to talk tomorrow at 1, no problem.
Well, but you would think, okay, so I got to get my calendaring thing. Okay, so I got to figure out my intake thing. Okay, so we got billing here. Okay, case management. All right, we're on needles. What's going on with this? We missed the statute. Everything just starts piling up on itself. And you're wondering where you put your efforts first.
Right.
Maybe the Dunning-Kruger thing is here. Maybe everybody thinks they're doing great. How do people not know that they're dumb, John?
It's not easy. I mean, how? I mean, I don't know if I'm not. I can't tell you with any confidence whether or not I'm dumb.
But that would make you the smartest person in the room. So
that would be amazing. But again, I don't know if that's true. But what I can say is, it all comes down to feedback. Making sure that as you implement technology, and by the way, people get intimidated. They feel like they have to do everything at once. Like, oh my God, I'm so behind. I need to set up 8 different programs at once. You don't. It's a gradual process. And then with each piece, you implement some type of feedback. Make sure that did that reduce the amount of time I spent on scheduling phone calls? Did my clients feel happier because that's the way we do things? Did I make more money? Money is a great feedback tool. More profit actually.
Right.
But, so those are things. And I think what you also have to do is, if you are going to develop your law firm like this, and, a lot of lawyers already know this, but you're going to have to understand that at some point you're a business owner and not a lawyer. It's not the same skill set. So you have to develop a new skill set and be willing to sort of step fully into that role.
Nice. So I have, this is kind of 2 questions with the same theme.
There we go with our compound questions. We're the worst.
I'll break it up into 2.
Break it up. Yeah.
Into 2. So a little bit of advice. Obviously this is a podcast, and we work with a lot of other podcasts. We work with, lawyers and law firms who are looking to do their own podcasts or have their own podcasts. When it comes to legal protection for that type of creativity, do you have any kind of recommendations I'm just thinking, like, I know we had to go through like a whole trademark process and all this stuff. Do you have like kind of a checklist or a certain thing like that? Because it seems like there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, just put it up there, throw it out there. It's got this theme music and it's all this stuff. It's like, do we need to protect that? Is there something to that? Do you have any kind of advice?
Video and podcasts too, Paul. I mean, like anything that you might come against some B-roll or, we got it handled.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any kind of advice with regards to that? People who are maybe, I don't know that a lot of law firms or lawyers necessarily venture into the like making an album or creating something like that. But a podcast, I think, does kind of fall in there. So that may be a little bit new territory. So I was just curious if you had any kind of, even if it's just off the cuff, like, hey, make sure you register your podcast name or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be a big one. I mean, I and I kind of give like a similar piece of advice almost to every creative business I work with. And these are just things to think about and consider. Like, they're not always things you need to do, but I'm like, you have your trademarks, right? So that's if you're really going to invest in the brand, start thinking about trademarks from day one, whether it means registering it, clearing it, whatever. So do trademarks. Think about copyright. Again, you might register a copyright for any number of the episodes that you produce. So there's that. Setting up a business entity, kind of working through any partnerships you might have. So let's say that you have 2 or 3 people doing the podcast. Just be really clear on what everybody owns, what everybody's responsibility is. And those are the kind of questions we help people work through, because obviously the answer is a little bit different for everybody, depending on what they need, and also depending on budget and depending on how committed they are. Some people are just starting something. They're like, well, I want to see if this works. I don't really care if it goes away. Or if something bad happens, I just want to see if I can get some traction here. And other people want to do everything on day one. And so I kind of tailor, the advice based on, I guess, what people's mindset is at the time we work with them.
Yeah.
Nice. I think it's good that you're talking about it though, because a lot of times this stuff doesn't come up until it's a problem.
Yeah.
Someone says, "Hey, wait a minute, I actually made this for something else, and now it got used on this podcast." Or something that we run into a lot is, using bits from a commercial or something like that. How to make sure you're kind of protected. So it's good to, I think it's good to kind of at least lay it out at the beginning. Regardless of how serious or not serious, just in case. You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when you form a business and people don't want to talk about exit strategies,
Right.
but you have to.
That's where you're going.
It's one way or the other. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So then to the second question that's on the same thing. The law firm on the street, the regular guy, you sit down, next to a fellow, next to a lawyer in the airport, and he says, "Hey man, one piece of advice. What's one piece of advice, you could give to the lawyers, to the law firms who are listening right now that would help them? Maybe it's, with the billing or subscription services, or just something that you think they should know."
I mean, I think, it's you can innovate incrementally, right? So I think a lot of people, again, kind of going back to what I said a few minutes ago, people feel intimidated, like they have to make some kind of AI chatbot or some crazy thing in order to innovate. Like that's the only innovation. But what I tell them is like, look, if you can set up maybe like an intake form, like go on FormStack or Typeform or whatever, and set up an intake form for new clients that maybe before they were, writing things on paper or just emailing you, that's innovation, right? So don't feel like everything has to be groundbreaking, because most of the good innovation actually isn't.
My law firm, I had a thing called Text Magic, and you could take your emails and turn them into texts, and texts could turn themselves into emails. And it blew everyone's face off. And it was a real small thing, but it was like, I can't get in touch with my damn clients, or my damn client sent me this over here or that. And it was a really interesting thing, because I started to look at the problem and I said, you guys are exchanging the right information. It's just not getting relayed properly.
Yeah.
And the channel was the problem. So Text Magic was one of those things that you're like,
That's
bro,
cool.
Very small, very huge. But any email, you would append it with Text Magic, and then bam, it would text it. Check it out, John.
Cool. That's cool. I'm going to check it out. Yeah.
Turn people on to this stuff. But it is small things, and it alleviated so many problems downstream. That they just, it's like it's hard to tell how important just that one little thing ended up saving how many needles notes, how many, paralegals being blamed, how many, embarrassed trial attorneys. It's just amazing stuff, man. John, how can people learn more about you online?
You can go to counselforcreators.com. So that's my website, and you can find everything about us there. We have all the information you'd ever want from us. We have a chat bot, all this kind of stuff on there. You can also find me on Twitter. I'm relatively active. John Tobin, LA, JONTOBIN, LA, at Twitter.
5 questions we ask everyone.
What was the last book you read?
Last book I read, I'm actually almost finished with this. It's Sandworm. It's about the Russian hacking team. So that one's really good.
Oh, I'm checking that out. I am
Very
so
good.
Into that stuff. Cool.
Yeah,
Terrifying.
All right. Oh, yeah. Number 2, what is your favorite place?
Favorite place? Like anywhere?
It could be.
That's it.
It could. Yes. There's no rules.
Okay.
Here, John.
Yeah, Croatia. So we go to Croatia pretty often. My wife's family's from there, so we visit Croatia pretty often. So love
really?
it. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's cool. Number 3, what sites, blogs, newsletters, or podcasts do you regularly check in with?
So, there's a lot of different podcasts, all the legal podcasts that, are out there. Blogs, not that many. I've sort of been less on that. I started getting into the Strategery newsletter. I like Farnham Street blog. That one's about like different mental models and sort of ways of thinking. So it kind of goes all over the place, but I don't actually have any regular sites that I check anymore. Mainly I'm on Twitter and sort of see what people post and then go there.
Oh man, I love those feeds.
Yeah.
Okay. Toughest one of the bunch. Number 4. If you were stranded on a desert island and could only pick one condiment to take with you, what would it be?
Hot sauce.
Nice. Okay.
Whoa.
Break it down, because
Yeah, come
there's a
on now.
lot.
Yeah.
Are we talking Tabasco? Are we talking
Sriracha.
Sriracha?
All of them, but I mean, we could Cholula for its versatility. Cholula's got, that versatility. You can, it goes across a lot of cuisines, so I could work with that.
Nice. Okay, last one. After a long day or a long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
I'm usually playing my synthesizers. I have a synth studio. I have an electronic music studio at home, so it's a way to just chill out and relax.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsonepodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawson.